Hey and welcome to this short video series about a writing project and the documentation of it, of the article Cognition Augmentation software. I am Moritz, co-founder of Remnode, and hopefully this will be an interesting series and an interactive video series where each video I answer questions, maybe show workflows that I created to write this article and implement some of your suggestions or recommendations. And to get started, let's maybe quickly discuss the project topic. So I got interested in the topic a while ago and had the idea to write this article while using the term tools for thought. And I always felt somewhat uncomfortable using the term because I felt it is very fuzzy and sort of all-encompassing, and this is why I think cognition augmentation software is a more tractable, more scientific term for this kind of software. And I want to answer questions like, how does Remnode fit into this space? What are the new scientific advancements? What devices are we going to use to utilize software like this, for example, in VR glasses or AR glasses. And to move on, I will quickly show a bit of the document, how the current structure looks like. And it's not very structured. I just dumped everything into one folder that's called like this, and added some headings to create some structure. So I also, in my daily workflow, always when ideas came up of things I should add to this essay or article, or connections I should draw, I always recommend to use the quick add feature and to memorize the shortcut for it, and then I would write some idea that I would later then move into this article, into this section. And here, for example, I wrote to search for new types of cognition supporting interfaces, which I heard somewhere. And those ideas I will hopefully later implement in the final article. Then I have the section summaries of articles and papers I read about this topic. And finally, the section resource backlog and summary and draft. So yeah, I'm not 100% happy with the structure because the summaries here and the summary here, which is the summary at the bottom, is a bit more free-flowing and more drawing connections. Not totally happy with the structure, but yeah, that's also maybe one learning. You should just structure your content however you feel comfortable and productive. And yeah, I will maybe have restructured this in the next video. And to the actual draft, I came up with a few headings of naming it, where I would analyze some different terms and how they interrelate. For example, how does PKMs fit into it, personal knowledge management systems, and what are the new devices I already mentioned, AR glasses, and also what's cognition augmentation software for learning, and how, yeah, what are the dominant applications there, and then draw some conclusions, and maybe to take a quick look at the current list of articles I read. So I read some interesting new articles. I think those are from 2009 or so. And yeah, generally it's a under-researched topic, I would say, at least in the recent years. And it started with Douglas Engelbart, who worked on augmenting the human intellect, which I will definitely read. It will take me about 2 hours, maybe, but yeah, maybe also you have some ideas of sections I should focus on or read first. please write that in the comments. This is on my list, and then below I have some more articles I want to read. And then this notation is just something I drafted here, where it helps me to schedule my the time in my calendar, where it's a rough estimate of the minutes I need to read the article. And yeah, definitely if you think there's something left in this list, please let me know. Or maybe even if I should prioritize an article you already read and you definitely found it very helpful, then this would be interesting. Let's maybe look at 2 papers and how what was my workflow of transitioning them into the article of the current draft. And for the paper Augmenting Cognition through Edge Computing, which was published in June 2019, I already drafted 1 sentence of starting with citing Vannevar Bush's work of As We May Think, which is this pretty old article of him describing a memex, and which is like a device to store memories and retrieve them fast and work with them. And then I mention that there hasn't been actually like scientific engineering work been done on these kind of devices, but in June 2019, blah blah blah, they proposed this architecture. And when we go to this node, then this was the one above, then we see I did some notes here, and then I could maybe in the article go into more detail on how the architecture will look like or could look like. And for example, just to show you this article, they talk about the inevitability through technology standards, and for example, through live logging, this mass of data could be mined and then could store memory cues and proactively present them. For example, when I would forget somebody's name or need some cue to help my memory to remember something and to maybe create a piece of work and to propose a new thought, this could be one way to augment the memory. And this was an interesting paper. Now let's maybe briefly look at the citation graph and what other papers are related to it. So we see our paper here with a black border, and we see it's sort of on the edge of this grouping, with this one being the most dominant. So it's mainly about edge computing, but it also touches on these aspects of augmenting memory. And this graph is not very interesting for our current article. We also see this one is pretty highly cited node. So not so interesting graph. Let's maybe move on to the other graph I wanted to show about the other paper I also did a small summary of, which was Augmented Cognition Distributed Cognition Towards a New Frontier of Human-Computer Interaction Research. This was also interesting, and I noted that the core principles of distributed cognition, amongst others, is also that people offload cognitive effort to the environment and thereby distribute their cognition. Looking at the second graph on connectedpapers.com, we see an interesting old friend, the extended mind, which is also on my list, and it's pretty highly cited, but also a bit old, so it's already 22 years old. And then we see even older work from Cognition in the Wild, which is interesting, and the airline cockpit topic. So this is also an interesting pattern. We see that this is a highly military related topic. So the DARPA institution is definitely researching this to improve military information intake and generally performance benchmarks. And we also see in this graph that there's an interesting French subset or sub-clustering community, I think you would say, in this situation. And finally, let's maybe look at this Lifetime Research Award talk. This could be also interesting, which might be a talk to watch, which has a high richness in terms of connecting to these two papers. But yeah, I just wanted to show you this tool and workflow. Finally, if you have any recommendations, ideas, please leave them in the comments below. And also, if you have ideas for this video series, if you have workflows you would like to see, please let me know. And with that, maybe see you next time.